Joining us now from House Oversight and Reform, he's Congressman Byron Donalds. Congressman, a pleasure to have you back on, too. This disturbing report, Democrat Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal called the police last Saturday. A person was outside her home using obscene language. A man was later arrested on suspicion of a hate crime for threatening to kill the congresswoman near her Seattle home. This is about toning down the rhetoric right now, right? This isn't about politicizing this. It's about everyone needs to tone it down because this is dangerous stuff.
I 100% agree. First of all, to Pramila and her family, I'm glad that they are safe, and I'm especially glad that law enforcement was able to get this person into custody. But what we also need to have and also understand is that this is what every American is afforded and should be able to rely upon, is safe communities and safe streets. You should be allowed to be safe in your home. Nobody's allowed to come to your home and threaten you. It is flat out wrong. And one of the things that we have to get a handle on, in some respects, yes, is the rhetoric, but it's also the policies around law enforcement and around prosecutions in a lot of the major cities in the United States.
And you're not allowed, it is against the law to protest against Supreme Court justices, period, full stop, enough. You know, let's move on to this. LA County lawmakers. Congressman, they're violating California's Constitution. They're trying to toss out LA County Sheriff Alex Villanueva via a motion. He's consistently called out their weak on crime agenda, to your point, but California's state constitution says they can't do that. He can only be removed by a recall or through an election or a grand jury of the state attorney general. So what's going on here?
Unfortunately, it's the worst kind of politics that happens in LA County, where they've totally lost focus on the things that actually matter for a thriving city. Number one is safe streets. Number two is actually having sound economic policy so businesses can thrive. That's what makes a city thrive. They've totally lost track of that.
But now you got 7-Eleven corporate leaders saying 7-Eleven stores you may want to close in the LA area. A half a dozen robberies, 2 dead, 3 wounded. We've got LA District Attorney George Gascon. He faces a second recall for going weak on crime. People are saying if you're going to oust the sheriff, you got to oust this guy too. So that's what's going on over there.
Well, listen, I would say that they got to get rid of the DA because he's not prosecuting anybody. And what the memo that sends to officers out on every street in America is if the district attorney is not going to actually press charges, then why are the officers going to go out and arrest people? It is a waste of time. It is paperwork. It doesn't go anywhere. So LA County, the people of Los Angeles, you need to get your house in order. It's time for that DA to go because he's not going to keep your city's city safe in that city.
Congressman, talk to us about what's going on here in New York City. The United Bodegas of America spokesman. He's a former New York City mayoral candidate, Republican Fernando Mateo. He's calling for murder charges to be dropped. They were filed against bodega store clerk Jose Alba. He was arrested and charged with murder. He fatally stabbed in self-defense, he says, a career criminal who was arrested 27 times who tried to attack him. So that's going on. So, you know, the far left Manhattan DA, Alvin Bragg, he pushed for bail of $500,000 for Mr. Alba. That was cut down to $5,000. But, you know, Congressman, you know this. You and I have talked about this. New York's Democrat passed bail reform in 2020, wiped out bail for dozens of offenses. Let's show it. Second-degree manslaughter, criminally negligent homicide, child sex crimes, and more. So they wipe out bail for that, but they want high bail for that guy in self-defense.
These Soros-backed district attorneys, like the one in Manhattan, these guys have completely messed up the entire bail system, not to mention prosecutions. They pick and choose when they want to levy bail, but when it's politically convenient for them. Listen, if somebody dies, it must be investigated by law enforcement. Everybody supports that. If it is found that the death occurred because of a criminal act, people have to be prosecuted. Everybody supports that. But what we can't have are these district attorneys who decide when they want to pick and choose how they're going to levy justice, because that is not a consistent way to apply the law, and it actually upsets more people and it causes more lawlessness in our streets.
Well, that's important. That's an important point you just made because it also breeds cynicism. Let's listen to Fernando Mateo saying New York City and other cities, you got to start protecting the victims first. Watch this.
Listen, this city is really in bad shape. Bill de Blasio left us in shambles. And these new elected officials that have taken over need to really buckle their belt and understand that we need to protect victims and we need to get rid of the criminals. And we need to give this city an opportunity to be what it was during Giuliani and Bloomberg. You know, we had the best 20 years in our life, in my lifetime here in New York City. We can't go back.
Congressman, this is what's happening here. Let's talk about this for a quick second. Biden's border collapse is hitting U.S. cities right as they are weakening crime laws, right as they are letting people out. I mean, New York's no bail law, again, approved by state Democrats in 2019. Congressman, it helped free from jail last week 2 Mexican drug smugglers caught with more than 140 pounds of crystal meth worth a street value of about $1.2 million. They were set free with no bail.
Look, I'm going to tell you right now, Democrat policy, whether it's here in Washington, D.C., or in state legislatures like New York, or even in New York City, are a failure to communities, because you're absolutely correct. You cannot let the drug cartels move fentanyl into our country at record rates because you're weak on the border, then at the same time have district attorneys who will not actually prosecute drug trafficking. It is wrong, and who it really damages are young people in our communities, and it damages families in our communities and small business owners who need all the help they can get.
Congressman Donalds, again, a pleasure having you on. Come back soon.